Adeline stood in the grand foyer of Harrington House, her hands gripping the edges of her worn cloak. The marble floors gleamed beneath her muddy boots. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead like frozen stars. She did not belong here. Every breath she took felt stolen from richer lungs. The butler had not asked her name. He had simply stared at her threadbare dress and pointed toward the servants' entrance. But Adeline had not come seeking employment. She had come for answers about her missing brother. She turned toward the door, ready to leave, when footsteps echoed behind her. "Wait!" The voice was deep, commanding, desperate. Adeline turned slowly. A man stood at the top of the curved staircase. He was tall, with dark hair that fell across his forehead. His jacket was unbuttoned. His cravat hung loose around his neck. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and they locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. He descended the stairs quickly, his boots clicking against the marble. When he reached her, he stopped so close she could smell the faint scent of whiskey and pine. "Are you real?" he asked. Adeline blinked. "I beg your pardon?" His gaze swept over her face, her hair, her shabby cloak. His jaw tightened. "You are perfect." Heat rushed to her cheeks. "Sir, I think you are mistaken." "Please." He stepped even closer. His hand reached out as if to touch her arm, then fell away. "I need your help. Desperately." Adeline took a step back, her spine pressed against the cold door. "I am looking for someone. My brother. He worked in the stables here months ago, and then he vanished. I need to know—" "I will help you find him," the man interrupted. His voice was firm. "I swear it. But first you must help me. Tonight. Just one night." Adeline's heart pounded. She studied his face. There were shadows beneath his eyes, lines of tension around his mouth. He looked like a man drowning. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Lucian Ashford," he said. "Duke of Harrington." Her stomach dropped. A duke. She had barged into a duke's home demanding answers, and now he stood before her asking for help. It made no sense. "What could you possibly need from me?" she asked. Lucian's throat worked as he swallowed. He glanced toward the grand ballroom doors, where music and laughter spilled into the hall. "My mother is hosting a ball tonight. She has invited every eligible woman in London. She is determined to see me married by the end of the season." Adeline frowned. "And?" "And I cannot marry any of them." His voice was tight, raw. "There is someone else. Someone my mother would never approve of. If I do not discourage her matchmaking tonight, she will force my hand. I need a distraction, a convincing one." Adeline's pulse quickened. "You want me to pretend to be— what? Your betrothed?" "No." Lucian's gaze held hers. "My mistress." The word hung in the air like smoke. Adeline's cheeks burned. She opened her mouth to refuse, but Lucian spoke again before she could form the words. "Just for tonight," he said quickly. "You will appear on my arm. You will dance with me. You will make my mother believe I am too entangled with you to consider marriage. By tomorrow morning, you will be free to go, and I will use every resource I have to find your brother." Adeline's mind raced. Her brother Thomas had been missing for 3 months. The authorities had done nothing. She had searched every coaching inn, every workhouse, every hospital in London. She had no money left, no leads, no hope. This duke was offering her a chance. One night of pretending in exchange for answers. But pretending to be a mistress? The scandal alone could ruin her. "Why me?" she asked. "You could hire an actress, someone trained in deception." Lucian's expression softened. "Because you walked into my home with mud on your boots and fire in your eyes, demanding the truth. You are not polished, not false. That is exactly what I need." Adeline hesitated. She thought of Thomas, of his crooked smile and terrible jokes, of the way he had promised to send money home to their mother every month, of the silence that had followed. She would do anything to find him. "One night," she said. Lucian's shoulders sagged with relief. One night. But neither of them knew that someone was already watching from the shadows, someone who would shatter everything before the clock struck midnight. Lucian led Adeline up the grand staircase and down a long hallway lined with portraits. The eyes of his ancestors seemed to follow her, judging, disapproving. He stopped in front of a heavy oak door and pushed it open. Inside was a bedchamber larger than Adeline's entire cottage. A four-poster bed draped in emerald silk dominated the room. A fire crackled in the marble fireplace. Gowns in every color imaginable hung from an ornate wardrobe. "These belong to my late aunt," Lucian explained. He gestured toward the wardrobe. "She was fond of extravagance. Choose whatever you like." Adeline stepped inside slowly. Her fingers brushed against the silk and satin. She had never worn anything finer than homespun wool. "I will send a maid to help you," Lucian continued. He paused at the door. His gaze lingered on her face. "Thank you." Before she could respond, he was gone. Moments later, a young maid with kind eyes entered the room. She did not ask questions. She simply helped Adeline out of her muddy dress and into a gown of deep crimson. The fabric clung to her waist and flowed like water over her hips. The neckline was lower than anything she had ever worn. She felt exposed, dangerous. The maid pinned Adeline's dark hair into an elegant twist, leaving a few curls to frame her face. She dabbed perfume onto Adeline's wrists and throat, rosewater and something darker, seductive. When Adeline finally looked into the mirror, she did not recognize herself. The woman staring back at her was bold, beautiful, exactly the kind of woman a duke might keep as a mistress. Her stomach twisted with nerves. The maid smiled. "You look perfect, miss." Adeline forced herself to breathe. "Thank you." A knock sounded at the door. The maid opened it, and Lucian stepped inside. He froze when he saw Adeline. His eyes widened, his lips parted slightly. For a long moment he simply stared. "You—" he cleared his throat. "You look—" "Convincing?" Adeline offered, her voice sharper than she intended. Lucian's gaze softened. "Stunning." Heat flooded her cheeks. She looked away, fiddling with the fabric of her gown. "I feel like an imposter." "Good," Lucian said. He stepped closer. "That is exactly what you are. But no one will know. Just stay close to me, follow my lead, and do not let my mother intimidate you." Adeline lifted her chin. "I am not easily intimidated." A smile tugged at the corner of Lucian's mouth. "I believe you." He offered his arm. Adeline hesitated, then slipped her hand into the crook of his elbow. His muscles were solid beneath the fabric of his jacket. Warmth radiated from him. Together, they descended the staircase toward the ballroom. But as they reached the bottom step, Adeline felt the weight of 100 eyes turn toward them. The music faltered. Conversations died mid-sentence. A woman in a silver gown stood at the center of the ballroom. She was older, with sharp features and eyes like chipped ice. Her gaze locked onto Adeline with the precision of a hawk spotting prey. "My mother," Lucian murmured, "the Dowager Duchess." Adeline's pulse hammered in her ears, but she forced herself to smile, to lift her chin, to meet the Dowager's stare without flinching. The Dowager's lips pressed into a thin line. She began to move toward them, cutting through the crowd like a blade. "Here we go," Lucian whispered. But before the Dowager could reach them, the ballroom doors burst open. A woman stumbled inside. Her hair was disheveled, her gown was wrinkled, her face was pale and streaked with tears, and her belly was unmistakably round with child. The room fell silent. The woman's gaze found Lucian, her eyes filled with desperation and fury. "Lucian," she choked out, "you promised." Adeline's blood turned to ice. She looked up at Lucian. His face had gone completely white. His arm, still linked with hers, trembled. The pregnant woman took a step forward. Her voice rang out across the silent ballroom. "You promised you would marry me," she said. "You promised our child would have a name." And the entire room erupted into chaos. Adeline's mind spun. The warmth of Lucian's arm against hers now felt like a trap. She tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. His fingers dug into her wrist just enough to keep her anchored. "Do not move," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Please." The pregnant woman swayed on her feet. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Shocked gasps, whispered accusations. The Dowager Duchess stood frozen, her face a mask of horror and rage. "Clarissa," Lucian said. His voice was steady, but Adeline could hear the tremor beneath it. "You should not be here." Clarissa. So that was her name. The woman who carried his child. Clarissa laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "Should not be here? You invited me into your bed, Lucian. You whispered promises in the dark, and now you stand here with her?" Her gaze cut to Adeline like a knife. "Who is she? Another plaything?" Adeline's stomach turned. She wanted to run, to disappear, but Lucian's hand held her fast. "Miss Hartley is none of your concern," Lucian said coldly. Miss Hartley. He had given her a false name without hesitation. Adeline filed that away even as her heart pounded. Clarissa took another step forward. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You said you loved me. You said we would be together." The Dowager finally moved. She swept across the ballroom floor with the force of a winter storm. Her voice cracked like a whip. "Clarissa Montague, you will leave this house immediately. This display is unseemly and inappropriate." Clarissa's eyes flashed. "Unseemly? Your son seduced me and abandoned me. I am carrying his heir, and he parades his whore in front of all of London." The room exploded with shocked whispers. Adeline felt 100 eyes boring into her. Her cheeks burned. She wanted to shout that she was not his whore, that she was only here to find her brother, that this was all a terrible mistake. But she stayed silent, because Lucian's grip on her wrist tightened again, and she understood. Any denial would only make things worse. Lucian stepped forward, placing himself between Clarissa and Adeline. "You will not speak to her that way." Clarissa's face crumpled. "But you can abandon me. Cast me aside like I mean nothing." "I never promised you marriage," Lucian said quietly. "I never promised you anything." Adeline's breath caught. Was that true? Or was he lying to save face? Clarissa's sobs filled the silence. The Dowager's expression was carved from ice. She turned to 2 footmen standing near the door. "Escort Miss Montague to the drawing room. Send for her family." The footman moved forward. Clarissa tried to resist, but she was weak, trembling. They guided her gently but firmly from the ballroom. Her cries echoed down the hall. The moment she was gone, the Dowager turned on Lucian. Her voice was low, deadly. "My study. Now." Lucian released Adeline's wrist. He met his mother's gaze without flinching. "As you wish." He turned to Adeline. His storm-grey eyes were filled with something she could not name. Regret? Fear? "Wait for me, please." Then he followed his mother out of the ballroom, leaving Adeline alone in a sea of judgmental stares. Adeline stood frozen. The ballroom, which had been filled with music and laughter moments ago, now buzzed with vicious whispers. Women hid their mouths behind gloved hands, their eyes gleaming with cruel delight. Men shook their heads, their expressions a mixture of amusement and disapproval. She felt naked despite the crimson gown. Every inch of her skin prickled with awareness. She wanted to run, but she forced herself to stand tall, to meet the stares with a calm she did not feel. A man in a navy jacket approached her. He was older, with silver streaking his dark hair. His smile was sharp. "Miss Hartley, was it?" Adeline swallowed. "Yes. Lord Pembroke." He bowed slightly. Quite the entrance tonight. Tell me, did the Duke inform you of his other entanglements before inviting you to this charming affair? Adeline's hands clenched at her sides. I do not believe that is any of your concern, Lord Pembroke. His smile widened. Oh, but it is everyone's concern now, my dear. You are the talk of the season. Before she could respond, a young woman in a pale yellow gown appeared at her side. She looped her arm through Adeline's with surprising familiarity. Lord Pembroke, do stop pestering Miss Hartley. Can you not see she is overwhelmed? Lord Pembroke's smile faltered. He bowed again, this time more stiffly, and walked away. The young woman steered Adeline toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. She had bright blue eyes and golden curls that framed her heart-shaped face. She looked kind, genuine. Thank you, Adeline said quietly. The woman waved a hand. Do not thank me yet. I am Lady Beatrice Carlyle, by the way, and you, Miss Hartley, are in quite the predicament. Adeline's stomach sank. You believe what they are saying about me? Beatrice tilted her head. I believe that you are either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish to stand beside Lucian Ashford tonight, but I do not believe you are a villain. Adeline studied her. Why not? Because villains do not look terrified, Beatrice said simply. They look smug. You, my dear, look like you wish the floor would swallow you whole. A surprised laugh escaped Adeline's lips. It felt strange, laughing in the middle of such chaos, but Beatrice's honesty was refreshing. I do not know what I have gotten myself into, Adeline admitted. Beatrice's expression sobered. Then let me give you some advice. Lucian Ashford is a complicated man. He is kind, but he is also guarded. He has enemies, secrets. If you care for him, be careful. If you do not, run. Adeline frowned. I barely know him. Then why are you here? The question hung in the air. Adeline could not tell this stranger the truth. She could not admit that she was only pretending, that this entire night was a desperate bargain. I made a promise, Adeline said finally. Beatrice nodded slowly. Then I hope it is a promise worth keeping. Before Adeline could respond, the ballroom doors opened again. Lucian stepped inside. His face was pale, his jaw tight. His eyes scanned the room until they found hers. He crossed the ballroom in long strides. The crowd parted for him like water. When he reached Adeline, he took her hand. His touch was gentle this time, almost reverent. Come with me, he said softly. Please. Adeline glanced at Beatrice, who gave her an encouraging nod. Then she followed Lucian out of the ballroom. But she did not see the shadow that detached itself from the corner, did not hear the soft footsteps that followed them into the darkness. Someone was listening, someone who knew the truth, and they would use it to destroy them both. Lucian led Adeline through a side door and down a dimly lit corridor. The sounds of the ball faded behind them. The air grew cooler, quieter. He did not speak. His grip on her hand was firm but not painful. They reached a small library. Shelves of leather-bound books lined the walls from floor to ceiling. A fire burned low in the hearth, casting flickering shadows across the room. Lucian closed the door and locked it. Adeline pulled her hand free. You need to explain, now. Lucian ran a hand through his hair. He looked exhausted, haunted. I know. Is the child yours? Adeline's voice was sharper than she intended. Lucian's gaze snapped to hers. No. But she said, I know what she said. His voice was rough. But I swear to you, I am not the father of Clarissa's child. Adeline crossed her arms. Then why did she come here? Why did she say those things? Lucian walked to the fireplace. He braced his hands against the mantel and stared into the flames. Because someone told her to. Adeline blinked. What? Clarissa and I... He paused, choosing his words carefully. We were involved, briefly, months ago, but I ended it before things went too far. She was upset, but she accepted it. Or so I thought. And the baby? Is not mine, Lucian repeated. But someone has convinced her that it is, or convinced her to lie. I do not know which. Adeline's mind raced. Who would do that? Lucian turned to face her. His expression was grim. Someone who wants to destroy my family. Someone who knows that a scandal like this could ruin us. Why? Because I have been investigating something, Lucian said slowly. Something dangerous. I uncovered evidence of corruption, of powerful men abusing their positions. And now, those men are trying to silence me. Adeline's breath caught. By using Clarissa? Yes. She studied his face, the tension in his jaw, the shadows beneath his eyes. He was telling the truth. She could feel it. What does this have to do with my brother? She asked. Lucian's expression shifted. Guilt flickered across his features. I do not know yet, but if Thomas worked here, and if he vanished, it may be connected. Adeline's heart clenched. You think they hurt him? I think they may have silenced him, Lucian said quietly. If he saw something he should not have. Adeline's knees weakened. She sank into a nearby chair. Her hands trembled. Thomas, her kind, foolish brother. He had always been too curious for his own good. Lucian knelt in front of her. His hands covered hers. I will find him, Adeline. I swear it. But you must trust me. She looked into his eyes, storm grey and earnest. She wanted to trust him. But trust was a fragile thing, easily broken. Why did you ask me to pretend to be your mistress? She whispered. If you knew this would happen, why involve me? Lucian's jaw tightened. Because I thought I could control the situation. I thought that by appearing distracted, by giving my mother someone to disapprove of, I could buy myself time to finish my investigation. But I underestimated how far my enemies would go. So I am just a pawn. No. His grip on her hands tightened. You were supposed to be a shield, but I realize now that I have put you in danger, and I am sorry. Adeline's throat tightened. She wanted to be angry, to rage at him for dragging her into this mess. But she could see the regret in his eyes, the desperation. What do we do now? She asked. Lucian stood, his expression hardened with determination. Now, we fight back. But before he could say more, a soft knock sounded at the door. They both froze. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Lucian moved to the door and unlocked it cautiously. Beatrice Carlyle stood on the other side. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. You need to come quickly, she said. Clarissa is in the drawing room, and she is saying things, terrible things. Lucian cursed under his breath. He glanced back at Adeline. Stay here. No, Adeline said firmly. She rose from the chair. If this involves me, I have a right to know. Lucian looked as if he wanted to argue, but then he nodded. Stay close. Together, the three of them hurried down the corridor toward the drawing room. But what they found inside would change everything. The drawing room was filled with people. The Dowager Duchess sat in a high-backed chair near the window, her face carved from stone. Clarissa stood in the center of the room, her hands cradling her swollen belly. Tears streaked her cheeks, but her eyes burned with something that looked like triumph. And beside her stood a man Adeline did not recognize. He was tall, with sharp features and cold, calculating eyes. He wore an expensive jacket and carried himself with the arrogance of someone used to power. Lord Ashford, the man said smoothly, how good of you to join us. Lucian's entire body tensed. Lord Grimsby, what are you doing here? So this was Grimsby, one of the men Lucian had been investigating. Adeline's stomach twisted. Grimsby smiled. Miss Montague came to me in her hour of need. She told me a most distressing story, one I felt compelled to share with your dear mother. The Dowager's expression did not change, but Adeline saw the flicker of fury in her eyes. "What story?" Lucian's voice was dangerously calm. Clarissa stepped forward. Her voice trembled. "I told them the truth, Lucian, that you seduced me, that you promised me marriage, and when I told you I was carrying your child, you cast me aside." "That is a lie," Lucian said flatly. "Is it?" Grimsby tilted his head. "Because Miss Montague has letters, love letters, written in your hand." Adeline's blood ran cold. "Letters?" Lucian's jaw clenched. "I never wrote her any letters." Grimsby produced a folded piece of parchment from his coat. He handed it to the Dowager. "See for yourself, Your Grace." The Dowager unfolded the letter. Her eyes scanned the page. Her expression did not change, but her knuckles turned white as she gripped the paper. "This is your handwriting, Lucian," she said quietly. "Let me see it," Lucian demanded. The Dowager handed him the letter. Lucian's eyes moved over the words. His face went pale. This is not..." "Not what?" Grimsby's smile widened. "Not yours? Come now, Lord Ashford, we all recognize your hand." Adeline's mind raced. Forgery. It had to be. But how could they prove it? "You forged this," Lucian said through gritted teeth. Grimsby laughed. "A serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Lucian looked at his mother. "You cannot believe this." The Dowager's gaze was cold. "What I believe is irrelevant. What matters is what society will believe. And with these letters, with Miss Montague's condition, and with your companion," she glanced at Adeline with thinly veiled disdain, "you have created a scandal that will destroy this family." "Mother." "You will marry Miss Montague," the Dowager said. Her voice was final. "Immediately. You will claim the child as your own, and you will end whatever sordid arrangement you have with that woman." Adeline's heart sank. She wanted to speak, to defend Lucian, but she knew it would only make things worse. Lucian's hands clenched into fists. "I will not." The Dowager rose from her chair. She moved toward him with slow, deliberate steps. When she stood before him, she spoke in a voice only he could hear, but Adeline was close enough to catch the words. "If you do not do this, I will cut you off. You will lose everything, your title, your estate, your name. And the investigation you have been conducting, it will die with your reputation." Lucian's face went ashen. Grimsby watched with undisguised satisfaction. "A wise choice, Your Grace. Family must come first." Lucian looked at Clarissa. She met his gaze, her expression pleading. But there was something else there too. Something that looked like guilt. "Clarissa," Lucian said softly, "tell them the truth, please." Clarissa's lower lip trembled. For a moment, Adeline thought she would confess. But then Grimsby placed a hand on her shoulder, and her expression hardened. "I have told the truth," she said. "You are the father of my child." Lucian's shoulders sagged. He looked defeated, broken. Adeline could not stand it any longer. She stepped forward. "This is absurd. Lord Ashford is being blackmailed. Can you not see that?" Grimsby turned his cold gaze on her. "And you are—" "Miss Hartley," Adeline said, lifting her chin. "And I know that Lord Ashford is innocent." "Of course you would say that," Grimsby said smoothly. "You are his mistress. You benefit from his ruin." "I am not." Adeline bit back the denial. She could not reveal the truth, not now. The Dowager's eyes narrowed. "You will leave this house immediately, Miss Hartley. You are not welcome here." Adeline's heart pounded. She looked at Lucian, but he would not meet her eyes. "Lucian," she whispered. He finally looked at her, and the pain in his gaze nearly broke her. "Go, Adeline, please." She felt as if he had struck her. After everything, he was sending her away. But she understood. He was protecting her. The scandal would consume him, but he could still save her from it. She nodded once. Then she turned and walked out of the drawing room, her vision blurred with unshed tears. She found her way back to the foyer, back to the servants' entrance. She stripped off the crimson gown and changed back into her shabby dress, and then she walked out into the cold London night, alone. But she did not know that Lucian was already planning his next move, or that the shadows held more secrets than anyone realized. Adeline walked through the dark streets of London. The cold bit through her thin cloak. Her breath misted in the air. She did not know where she was going. She only knew she could not stay at Harrington House. Her brother was still missing, and now her only lead was gone. She found herself at a small coaching inn near the docks. She had just enough coin left for a single night's lodging. The innkeeper barely looked at her as she paid and climbed the narrow stairs to a cramped room. She sat on the edge of the lumpy bed and stared at the wall. Tears finally came. She had been so close to finding Thomas, and now it was all for nothing. But then, through the fog of her despair, a thought emerged. Lucian had said his investigation might be connected to Thomas's disappearance. If that was true, then the answers she sought were tied to whatever Grimsby was hiding. She could not give up. Not yet. Adeline stood. She wiped her tears away and straightened her shoulders. She would find Thomas herself, and if she had to go through Grimsby to do it, so be it. But she would need help. The next morning, Adeline returned to Harrington House, but this time, she did not go to the front door. She went to the servants' entrance. She found a young maid she recognized from the night before. "Please," Adeline said, "I need to speak with Lady Beatrice Carlyle. It is urgent." The maid hesitated, then nodded. "Wait here." 10 minutes later, Beatrice appeared. She wore a simple day dress, and her golden curls were pinned neatly. Her eyes widened when she saw Adeline. "Miss Hartley, I did not expect to see you again." "I need your help," Adeline said quickly. "Please, I know you have no reason to trust me, but I am trying to find my brother, and I believe his disappearance is connected to what happened last night." Beatrice studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Come with me." She led Adeline through the servants' corridors and into a small sitting room. She closed the door and turned to face her. "Tell me everything," Beatrice said. And Adeline did. She told her about Thomas, about Lucian's proposition, about the investigation, about Grimsby and the forged letters. When she finished, Beatrice was silent. Then she sighed. "Lucian is a fool." Adeline blinked. "What?" "He is noble and brave, but he is a fool for thinking he could fight men like Grimsby alone." Beatrice paced the room. "Grimsby has connections everywhere. Parliament, the courts, even the palace. He is untouchable." "Then how do we stop him?" Beatrice stopped pacing. A slow smile spread across her face. "We do not stop him. We expose him." Adeline's heart quickened. "How?" "Grimsby is careful," Beatrice said, "but he is also arrogant. He will have kept records, proof of his crimes. We just need to find them." "Where?" Beatrice's smile widened. "His townhouse. He is hosting a card party tonight. Half of London will be there, including me." Adeline's eyes widened. "You mean to search his house?" "I mean for us to search his house," Beatrice corrected. "You will come as my lady's maid. No one will look twice at a servant." Adeline's pulse raced. It was dangerous, reckless, but it was also a chance. "What about Lucian?" Adeline asked. Beatrice's expression softened. "Lucian is being forced to announce his engagement to Clarissa tonight, at the card party. If we can find evidence before that happens, we can stop it." Adeline's chest tightened. Engagement. The word felt like a blade. "Then we have no time to waste," she said. Beatrice grinned. "I knew I liked you." But neither of them knew that someone had been listening to their conversation. someone who would make sure Grimsby was prepared. That evening, Adeline wore a plain grey dress and a white cap. She followed Beatrice through the grand entrance of Grimsby's townhouse. Servants bustled past them, carrying trays of champagne and delicate pastries. The air smelled of perfume and cigar smoke. Beatrice squeezed Adeline's hand once, then disappeared into the crowd of elegantly dressed guests. Adeline kept her head down and moved toward the servants' staircase. Her heart pounded so loudly she was certain everyone could hear it. But no one stopped her. No one even looked at her. She climbed the stairs to the second floor. The hallway was dimly lit. Doors lined both sides. She did not know which one led to Grimsby's study. She tried the first door. A bedroom, empty. The second door, another bedroom. The third door was locked. Adeline's pulse quickened. She pulled a hairpin from beneath her cap and knelt in front of the lock. Her father had been a locksmith before he died. He had taught her the basics when she was young. Her hands shook as she worked the pin into the lock. It took 3 agonizing minutes, but finally the lock clicked. She pushed the door open and slipped inside. The study was dark except for the moonlight streaming through the window. Shelves of books lined the walls. A large desk sat in the center of the room, covered with papers and ledgers. Adeline moved to the desk and began searching. She opened drawers, rifled through papers. Most of it was mundane. Bills, correspondence, nothing incriminating. Then, at the bottom of the last drawer, she found a leather-bound journal. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The pages were filled with names, dates, transactions, payments made to members of parliament, bribes, blackmail, and near the end, a single name made her blood run cold. Thomas Hartley. Her brother's name was written in Grimsby's hand, and beside it a note. Displayed of, no longer a threat. Adeline's vision blurred. Disposed of. The words echoed in her mind. She wanted to scream, to sob, but she forced herself to breathe, to focus. She tucked the journal under her arm and turned toward the door, but it was already opening. Lord Grimsby stood in the doorway, his cold eyes locked onto hers. A slow smile spread across his face. "Well, well," he said. "What do we have here?" Adeline's heart stopped. She clutched the journal tighter. Grimsby stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. "You should not have come here, Miss Hartley." "You killed my brother," Adeline said. Her voice shook with fury. Grimsby's smile did not falter. "Your brother was careless. He saw something he should not have. I simply eliminated a problem." Rage flooded Adeline's veins. She lunged for the door, but Grimsby was faster. He grabbed her arm and twisted it behind her back. Pain shot through her shoulder. "Let go of me!" she shouted. Grimsby's breath was hot against her ear. "No one will hear you, and no one will believe you. You are nothing, a servant, a whore." Adeline drove her elbow back into his ribs. He grunted and loosened his grip just enough. She wrenched free and ran for the door, but Grimsby caught her again. This time he slammed her against the wall. The journal fell from her hands and skidded across the floor. "You will not leave this room alive," he hissed. Adeline's vision swam. She clawed at his hands, but he was too strong. And then the door burst open. Lucian stood in the doorway, his eyes blazed with fury. "Get your hands off her!" Grimsby turned, startled. Lucian crossed the room in 2 strides and drove his fist into Grimsby's face. Grimsby staggered back, blood pouring from his nose. Lucian stepped between him and Adeline. "Touch her again and I will kill you." Grimsby wiped the blood from his face, his expression twisted with rage. "You will regret this, Ashford." "No," Lucian said coldly. "You will." He bent down and picked up the journal. He flipped through the pages, his expression darkening with each line he read. "This is all the proof I need," he said. "Bribery, blackmail, murder. You are finished, Grimsby." Grimsby laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "You think anyone will believe you?" I am untouchable. Not anymore, a voice said from the doorway. Beatrice stood there, flanked by 2 officers of the law. Her expression was grim but satisfied. Lord Grimsby, one of the officers said, you are under arrest. Grimsby's face went white. He looked at Lucian, at Adeline, at Beatrice. Then he lunged for the window, but Lucian was faster. He grabbed Grimsby and slammed him to the floor. The officers moved in and clapped irons around his wrists. It is over, Lucian said. Grimsby spat at his feet. You have no idea what you have done. There are others, more powerful than me. They will destroy you. Lucian's expression did not change. Let them try. The officers dragged Grimsby from the room. His shouts echoed down the hallway. Adeline sagged against the wall. Her legs threatened to give out. Lucian was at her side in an instant, his hands steadying her. Are you hurt? He asked, his voice rough with concern. She shook her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks. He killed Thomas. He wrote it in the journal. Deposit of. Lucian's jaw tightened. I am so sorry, Adeline. She looked up at him. You came for me. Of course I did. His thumb brushed away her tears. I should never have let you leave. Beatrice cleared her throat. As touching as this is, we should leave before anyone realizes what happened. Lucian nodded. He wrapped an arm around Adeline's waist and guided her toward the door. But Adeline stopped. She turned back and picked up the journal. I need this. For Thomas. Lucian's expression softened. Then it is yours. Together, the 3 of them slipped out of Grimsby's townhouse and into the night. But the fight was not over yet. They returned to Harrington House under the cover of darkness. Beatrice left them at the servants' entrance with a promise to spread the word of Grimsby's arrest. She winked at Adeline before disappearing into the night. Lucian led Adeline to the same small library where they had talked the night before. He locked the door and turned to face her. You could have been killed, he said. His voice was strained. So could you, Adeline replied. Lucian ran a hand through his hair. I thought I had lost you. When I realized you had gone to Grimsby's house, he trailed off, his jaw clenching. How did you know where I was? Adeline asked. Beatrice sent word, Lucian said. She is more resourceful than she appears. Adeline smiled faintly. She is a good friend. Lucian stepped closer. His eyes searched hers. I meant what I said, Adeline. I should never have sent you away. I thought I was protecting you, but I only made things worse. You were trying to save me from scandal, Adeline said softly. I understand. But I do not want to save you from scandal, Lucian said. His voice dropped to a whisper. I want to stand beside you, no matter what comes. Adeline's heart stuttered. Lucian. He reached out and cupped her face in his hands. His touch was gentle, reverent. I know this is madness. I know we barely know each other, but I cannot stop thinking about you. About your courage, your fire, the way you walked into my home and demanded the truth. Adeline's breath caught. You barely know me. Then let me know you, Lucian said. Give me a chance. Adeline wanted to say yes, wanted to lean into his touch and let herself believe that this could be real. But doubt gnawed at her. What about Clarissa? She asked. Your mother said you have to marry her. Lucian's expression hardened. Clarissa came to me this evening, before the card party. She confessed. Adeline's eyes widened. What? Grimsby paid her, Lucian said. He threatened her family, told her that if she did not accuse me, he would ruin them. The baby is not mine. It belongs to a man she loved, a man Grimsby drove away. Adeline's chest tightened. She was a victim too. Lucian nodded. She is staying here tonight, under my protection. Tomorrow I will help her leave London, start a new life somewhere safe. Adeline's throat tightened. Lucian was so much more than she had expected. Kind, noble, brave. What about your mother? She asked. Lucian's jaw tightened. My mother and I will have words, but she cannot force me to marry anyone, especially not now that the truth is out. He stepped even closer. His forehead rested against hers. I want you, Adeline. Not because of some pretense, not because of a bargain, but because you are extraordinary. Adeline's eyes fluttered closed. She wanted this, wanted him, but fear held her back. I am no one, she whispered. A seamstress's daughter. I do not belong in your world. Then I will leave my world behind, Lucian said fiercely. I do not care about titles or estates. I care about you. Adeline opened her eyes. She looked into his storm-gray gaze and saw the truth there. He meant every word. Slowly, she reached up and touched his face. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. He leaned into her touch, his eyes closing. I want to believe you, she said. Then believe me, Lucian murmured. Trust me. And before she could think, before she could doubt, she closed the distance between them and kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative. But then Lucian's arms wrapped around her, pulling her close. The kiss deepened, became something fierce and desperate. All the fear and tension of the past 2 days poured into that kiss. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathless. Lucian rested his forehead against hers again. Stay with me, please. Adeline's heart ached. She wanted to say yes, but there was still one question that haunted her. What about Thomas? She whispered. The journal said he was disposed of, but it did not say how or where. Lucian's expression turned grim. We will find out, I promise you. We will uncover the truth. Adeline nodded. She clung to that promise, because it was all she had left. But neither of them knew that the truth was closer than they realized, and far more painful than they could imagine. The next morning, Lucian sent men to search for any information about Thomas Hartley. Adeline waited in the library, unable to sit still. She paced the room, her mind spinning with terrible possibilities. Beatrice arrived mid-morning with news. She swept into the library, her expression carefully neutral. They found something, she said. Adeline's heart stopped. What? Beatrice hesitated. She glanced at Lucian, who had just entered the room. He nodded. A body, Beatrice said gently. Pulled from the Thames 2 months ago. Unidentified, but the description matches Thomas. Adeline's knees buckled. Lucian caught her before she fell. He guided her to a chair and knelt in front of her. We do not know for certain, he said. But the coroner kept his belongings. We can go see them, confirm. Adeline nodded numbly. She could not speak, could not breathe. An hour later, they stood in a cold, sterile room at the morgue. The coroner laid out a small collection of items on a table. A tarnished pocket watch, a worn leather wallet, a signet ring. Adeline's vision blurred. She picked up the pocket watch with trembling hands. She opened it. Inside was a small portrait of their mother. It is his, she whispered. The words broke something inside her. She collapsed into Lucian's arms, sobbing. He held her tightly, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. Thomas was gone. Her kind, foolish brother was gone, and it was Grimsby's fault. Rage burned through her grief. She pulled back and wiped her eyes. I want to see him, Grimsby. I want to look him in the eye and tell him what he took from me. Lucian's jaw tightened. Adeline. Please, she said. Her voice was raw. I need this. Lucian studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. I will arrange it. 2 days later, Adeline stood in a cold stone cell beneath the courthouse. Grimsby sat on a narrow bench, his hands shackled. He looked smaller now, less powerful, but his eyes still held that cold calculation. Miss Hartley, he said. His voice was mocking. Come to gloat? Adeline stepped closer. She did not flinch. "You killed my brother." Grimsby shrugged. "He was in the wrong place at the wrong time." "He had a family," Adeline said. Her voice shook. "A mother who loved him, a sister who searched for him. He was a person, not a problem to be disposed of." Grimsby's expression did not change. "And yet, here we are. He is dead, and I will be free within the year. My connections will see to that." Adeline's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to strike him, to hurt him the way he had hurt her, but she forced herself to breathe. "You are wrong," she said quietly. "You will not be free, because I will make sure everyone knows what you did. Every bribe, every crime, every life you destroyed. Your name will be synonymous with evil." Grimsby's smile faltered. "And when you are finally hanged," Adeline continued, her voice steady now, "I will be there, watching. And I will think of my brother, and I will smile." She turned and walked out of the cell. She did not look back. Lucien was waiting for her in the corridor. He did not ask how she felt. He simply took her hand and led her out into the sunlight. In the weeks that followed, London buzzed with scandal. Grimsby's arrest sent shockwaves through Parliament. Dozens of men were implicated in his crimes. Some fled the country. Others faced trial. Clarissa left for the countryside with a generous sum from Lucien. She sent Adeline a letter, thanking her and apologizing. Adeline wrote back, wishing her well. The Dowager Duchess was forced to accept that her son would not marry for political gain. She was not pleased, but she was pragmatic. She tolerated Adeline's presence at Harrington House, though she did not hide her disapproval. Adeline did not care. She had found a purpose. She used Grimsby's journal to help others who had been victimized by him. She worked with Beatrice to establish a fund for families who had lost loved ones. And slowly, painfully, she began to heal. Lucien was by her side through it all. He did not push her, did not demand anything. He simply stayed, patient, steady. One evening, as they walked through the gardens of Harrington House, Lucien stopped by a fountain. The water glittered in the moonlight. "There is something I need to ask you," he said. Adeline turned to face him. Her heart quickened. Lucien reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a simple gold ring set with a single sapphire. "I know this is not how these things are usually done," he said. "I know I should ask your family, court you properly, but I cannot wait any longer." Adeline's breath caught. "You walked into my life and changed everything," Lucien continued. His voice was thick with emotion. "You are brave and fierce and kind. You make me want to be a better man. And I love you, Adeline. I have loved you since the moment you demanded the truth in my foyer." Tears streamed down Adeline's cheeks. "Marry me," Lucien said. "Not because of obligation, not because of scandal, but because I cannot imagine my life without you." Adeline looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the life he was offering her. She thought of Thomas, of the brother she had lost. She thought of all the pain and fear and anger she had carried. And then she thought of the future, of waking up beside Lucien every morning, of building something real, something good. "Yes," she whispered. Lucien's face broke into a smile. He slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms. He kissed her deeply, passionately, as if sealing a vow. When they pulled apart, Adeline was laughing and crying at the same time. "I love you," she said. "I think I have loved you since you asked me to pretend to be your mistress." Lucien laughed. "That was a terrible plan." "It was," Adeline agreed. "But it brought me to you." They stood together in the moonlight, holding each other. The world around them was still broken in so many ways, but in that moment, they were whole. 3 months later, Adeline stood in a sunlit chapel wearing a gown of ivory silk. Beatrice stood beside her as her maid of honor, beaming with pride. The Dowager Duchess sat in the front pew, her expression carefully neutral. But Adeline thought she saw a flicker of approval in the older woman's eyes. Lucian waited at the altar. He wore a dark jacket and a cravat of deep blue. When Adeline walked down the aisle, his eyes never left her face. He looked as if he was seeing something miraculous. The ceremony was simple, intimate. Only a handful of guests attended, but it was perfect. When the vicar pronounced them husband and wife, Lucian kissed Adeline with such tenderness that she forgot to breathe. The reception was held in the gardens of Harrington House. Lanterns glowed among the trees. Musicians played soft, sweet melodies. Laughter filled the air. Beatrice cornered Adeline near the dessert table. "You look happy." Adeline smiled. "I am." "Good." Beatrice squeezed her hand. "You deserve it." Later, as the sun began to set, Lucian led Adeline away from the crowd. They walked to the edge of the garden, where a stone bench overlooked the estate. "Are you happy?" Lucian asked. Adeline leaned into him. "More than I ever thought possible." Lucian wrapped his arm around her. "I wish Thomas could have been here." Adeline's throat tightened. "So do I. But I think he would be glad. He always wanted me to be safe, loved." "You are both," Lucian murmured. "I promise you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "What happens now?" Adeline asked. Lucian smiled. "Now, we live. We build a life together. We fight for justice. We love each other." Adeline turned to look at him. His storm-grey eyes were warm, full of promise. "That sounds perfect," she said. And it was. But their story was far from over, because in the shadows of London, new dangers were already stirring, and Adeline and Lucian would face them together. For now, though, they had this moment, this peace, this love, and it was enough. 1 year later, Adeline stood in the same gardens where she had married Lucian. But this time, she held a small bundle in her arms, a baby girl with dark hair and storm-grey eyes. Lucian stood beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder. He looked down at their daughter with such awe that Adeline's heart ached with love. "What should we name her?" Lucian asked. Adeline thought for a moment, then she smiled. "Hope." Lucian's eyes glistened. "Hope. Yes, that is perfect." Beatrice arrived with a basket of flowers. She cooed over the baby and declared her the most beautiful child in all of England. The Dowager Duchess made a rare appearance. She peered at the baby with something that might have been affection. "She has the Ashford nose," she said. "Poor thing." Lucian laughed. "Mother." The Dowager sniffed, but then she smiled, just a little. As the afternoon wore on, guests arrived. Friends, allies, people whose lives had been touched by Adeline and Lucian's fight for justice. They celebrated together, laughed together, healed together, and in the center of it all was a tiny baby named Hope, a symbol of everything they had fought for, everything they had won. Adeline looked at Lucian. He looked back at her, and in that gaze she saw her future, their future. It would not always be easy. There would be more battles to fight, more enemies to face, but they would face them together. Because love was not just a feeling, it was a choice, a promise, a vow. And Adeline had chosen Lucian, just as he had chosen her. "I love you," she whispered. Lucian kissed her forehead. "I love you too, always." And as the sun set over Harrington House, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Adeline knew that they had found something rare and precious. They had found home.